To call to order the April 4th, 2018 meeting of the Frederick County Planning Commission. If you would, join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. First item on our agenda, is there any changes to our agenda tonight? Then seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, is there any changes to our minutes as they were put out for us? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes for February 21st, 2018, and for the March 7th, 2018 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, we'll do committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Oates, if he's ready for transportation.
Yes, we met on March 26th and had 3 items. The first was a request by some citizens on Rubuck Road up in the Stonewall District. There's a really rough section of dirt road, and they'd like it to be considered and put into a hard surface program. The board approved the request and asked staff to go ahead and have it ranked and entered into the list of roads where appropriate. The second item was a discussion of the MPO work program on possible areas of our county where they could be studied for some road improvements. Some of the suggested areas was Route 11 North, the Lenore Drive extension out on 37 over at Stonewall Industrial Park, and also looking at the exit 313, Route 50, Route 522 area. The committee also looked at some other areas, and at this time they're, I guess, weighing all the different options to move forward with and to recommend to the MPO to apply for study money. And then the final update, or final item, was an update on county road projects. There was only 2 that we were updated on. One is the Tevis Street Extension, Airport Road, I-81 bridge area. There's a design for the roundabout at the end of the bridge that would tie into the road leading over to 522. They're at about 60% design. It's still going through the different committees, still trying to get approvals through the state. The Renaissance Drive, the survey work is complete. They're working with First Energy about adjusting some power lines to accommodate the bridge, still also working with CSX for the bridge, but work is ongoing.
Thank you, sir. Our next report be from Frederick Water, Mr. Unger.
Yes, sir. We met March 22nd. First thing they did, the board adopted an annual sewer meter calculator. We've got about 5 or 6 customers in Frederick County, mostly commercial stuff, that has sewer meters on their line going up from their business. And it's got to be calculated every few months, and we haven't been recovering from that, so they're going to start charging the customer for that so that they can at least break even on it. The other thing they adopted was a wastewater calculations in Lake Frederick. What they're doing is charging them basically for the maintenance and operation that goes on down there. And the cost of that is $235,000, and I think what they're doing is breaking even on that one also. And the board has adopted a new wastewater rate for the town of Stevens City. The new rate will be $2.59 a thousand. And they also they've been giving town of Stevens City a discount at $1.50 per thousand gallons. And since they've had a lot of differences in the last few years, they're going to change that rate to what a normal customer would pay for that meter. And that would be $6 per thousand gallons. So that'll be changed effective July 1st. And our customer basis now is 15,600 connections. Monthly water average is 5.4 million gallon per day. The Stevens City deal plants still run around 650 feet, and that's normal for that. Clearbrook is actually up 3 feet. It's 586 feet. Rainfall for the last month was 2.8 inches slightly below average, but that's still pretty good. We usually run around 3 inches a month, so we're still doing okay. Quarries are holding their own and they're recharging very good, so we should be in good shape for the summer. That's all we got.
Thanks, sir. Next on our committees would be the Historical Resources Board. Mr. Klein?
Yes, Historical Resource Advisory Board met March 27. First item on the conditional use permit for West Oak Special Event Facility located on Middle Road. The board had no comments and recommended approval. Second item was rezoning a request from Stonewall 4 located off Lenore Drive. Site has one historic structure, may be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Board recommended approval with the request from the applicant to conduct a Historical American Building Survey Standard 3 for the Glengarry site. Institute protocols for the demolition of the structure to preserve the historic features. That's all mine.
Thanks, sir. And seeing Mr. Triplett's not here tonight, there was a conservation easement meeting, and I did set in on that. Just a brief outline, at this time, they still struggle with getting the word out on conservation easement program. I think they're challenged there, and it's a yeoman's duty they're all doing, but they're trying to reach out, and they've come to a consensus that they're going to try to do more one-on-one type of meet and greet with the potential landowners out there that they could be working with. So just a brief outline of what went on in the Conservation Easement Committee meeting the other day. The next one is our liaison from Winchester Planning, Mr. Loring.
Thank you. At our most recent meeting, which was yesterday, we had 5 public hearings, 3 conditional use permits, 1 text amendment to a zoning ordinance, and 1 rezoning. I'll just detail the rezoning. It was to rezone a medium residential area to a medium residential with a PUD, a planned unit development, that'll permit the construction of 27 townhouses. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. And our last but never least, Board of Supervisor Liaison, Ms. Trout.
Good evening. On our March 28th meeting, we had approved an outdoor festival permit at the request of Waveland Farm for Cindy Lehman, and then we also had a public hearing on our budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year, which we are scheduled to adopt at our next meeting next Wednesday.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think that's it on the committee reports. Our next item on our agenda is citizen comments. This is a portion where we allow for any citizen that would like to speak before us that any items that's not on the agenda. So if anyone would like to come forward, this is your time. Seeing no one, I'll close the citizen comment portion. Our next item, oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, then our first item on our agenda is a public hearing item. It's for conditional use permit number 02-18 for Alicia Feltner, which submitted for a cottage occupation for a nail salon. The property is located at 464 Layside Drive, Winchester, Virginia, and is identified with property identification number 51-A-129 in the Back Creek Magisterial District. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The property is currently zoned RA. It's currently land use as residential. The surrounding properties are also zoned RA, and their uses are residential. If I can turn your attention to the map on your left, the property is highlighted off of Layside Drive, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman. Zoning ordinance allows a nail salon as a cottage occupation in our RA rural area zoning district with an approved conditional use permit. This proposed use will take place within a one-room basement of the applicant's single-family dwelling. The applicant is proposing a pedicure chair, 1 nail counter, a waiting area, a retail counter as depicted on the sketch that's provided in the application that you all have. This is also a layout of the property through the plat. Should the Planning Commission find this use to be appropriate, staff will recommend the following conditions be assigned to this conditional use permit. Number 1, all review agency comments should be applied with at all times. Number 2, no signage will be allowed with this conditional use permit. Number 3, the hours of operation shall be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Number 4, no more than 8 customers per week. Number 5, no employees were permitted beyond those residing on the premises. And number 6, any expansion or change of use will require a new conditional use permit. For the record, the applicant is here at this application and had agreed to all the conditions that were assigned to the conditional use permit. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions you or any of the planning commissioners may have on this conditional use permit 02-18. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Just one. We have a letter here from the homeowner association stating that there are no businesses allowed in the homes. Is it correct this is a private covenant and outside the purview of the county?
That is correct. Also, at your dais, Mr. Oates, there's a letter from the homeowners association, I think it's dated November 2017 when Ms. Feltner started this, that said they had no issues with that. But it is a private covenant, so you're correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wonder, are we violating anything if it would get approved? Or is that something we can do and then let them deal with the association?
It is Mr. Unger, it is a private issue between the property owner and the association. The applicant has met the minimum conditions required for cottage occupation.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I could, just to clarify, Mr. Unger, I was just asking because there was a letter, and I just wanted to verify that we're not party to that, it's a private matter.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
letter actually said, I mean, the answer's the same regardless, but the letter actually says it's not prohibited by.
Yeah, there are no restrictions. Yeah. Thank you.
That's,
Would the applicant like to speak? Would the applicant like to speak to us? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'm sorry. I'll open the public hearing, excuse me, I'm sorry. That was a mistake on my part. Sorry, thank you for that. At this time, I'll open the public hearing to any of those people that would like to speak to this matter. Come up into the microphone and please give us your name and address.
My name is Julie Zuckerman. I'm 220 Layside Drive. I've lived in Layside Estates for about 26 years, which is not as long as some people. Layside Estates is kind of a jewel into itself. It's pretty much unknown to the rest of Frederick County and Winchester, and that's something that we've always loved about it. It affords a great deal of privacy, and with privacy is security and a sense of safety. And the Lays, with their covenants, in order to protect their property that they obviously revered and loved, couldn't project every possibility of what would happen in the future. But when they said single dwelling homes for dwelling only, I think that's kind of what they had in mind. But it seems like a really innocuous type of business, and it is, but I think it opens a door to a slippery slope and sets a really bad precedent for what could happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak?
My name is Lisa Creamer, and I live at 427 Layside Drive. The covenants state, all said lots shall be used for residential purposes only. That is what Mr. Lay had in mind when he built this subdivision back in 1970. It is a very private area in Frederick County. Frederick County has not a thing to do with our road maintenance or our snow removal. We take care of our own roads and do our own snow removal. I do not wish to see this private, beautiful place opened up to the public. I think that public traffic is a deterrent up there, most definitely. I myself, along with some other neighbors, do our own neighborhood watch. I chased a gentleman out of there 3 weeks ago who came up claiming to be working for Comcast, and he was going to go from door to door and knock to see who wanted Comcast. We all have Comcast, Xfinity, and Wi-Fi up there in that subdivision. I told him that if we wanted Comcast, you dial 1-800-COMCAST, and they will be more than happy to come up and hook you up. I told him that I was getting ready to call the sheriff, and he sure wasn't, but any time turning that vehicle around and heading out of there. We want to keep this a private subdivision. This is a beautiful place. I have met Mrs. Feltner. She is a fine young lady and a hard worker. I don't know if she was aware of the fact that this is a private subdivision. I don't know if she got a copy of the covenants when she bought her home. But we sure would like to keep it private. It is a beautiful place, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Bettina Usler. I live at the corner of Layside Drive and 181 Sawyer Lane. The covenant states that the property should be as residential use only, so therefore the businesses shouldn't be allowed in the area. Also, I think you said that there was a letter sent from the homeowners association that there was no problem against this business being open. Is that what you said?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so in order for anything like that to be passed, it has to be voted on with the homeowners. That never took place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Laura Clark, and I live at 393 Layside Drive. I've been up there for 47 years, and I bought the property and love it up there because of the privacy. The traffic on the road is my concern, because this property is at the end, which is a dead end, and we're not used to strangers coming up and down. You don't know who's coming and going. Now we do. So I'd appreciate if we could keep our property private. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. William Hudnut, 357 Layside Drive. I am the president of the Homeowners Association, and we responded to the request for information from this homeowner and stated that in the covenants, there was no express restrictions on property or having home-based businesses. So we responded, we have not had our annual meeting. This will be an agenda item. To restrict this, it would have to change the declaration. So if the members will want the declaration changed, we'll have to change that to restrict it. So that was the response, and the meeting is May 12th, and we will be discussing this for future events. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. I'm David Hershey. Live at 269 Pinnacle Ridge Road in Layside for 45 years. And went to most of all our meetings over the years and just never, this was just blindsided me. No one else that I know of in 45 years requested to have a business up there. And so this was news to me, and I just assumed, just took for granted, you drive around most developments, you don't see businesses in when a development with homes and stuff, you don't see. But my concern is that if you leave one person in, where do you draw the line? Can you have a garage? Can you have that's what concerns me. So that's just my concern.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Laura Sperling. I live at 256 Sawyer Lane, and I have lived in the neighborhood for 8 years. Love it and cherish it for its very special quality of serene beauty, and there are quite a few unpleasant elements driving around off of Route 50, which is how we access our little special hill up there. And I echo the concerns of my neighbors with being not interested in inviting anyone who doesn't have specific business with families and friends, and that's my concern. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I'll close the public hearing. And would the applicant like to respond, or?
I wish to respect, everything that they do. Like I had said, it would be seeing 8 people a week. The customers that I have had for 16-plus years. I can vouch for every single one of them, that they would respect each one of us. And that's basically it. I'm just trying to cut back a little bit and keep it small, keep it simple, keep it quiet. That's it.
Anyone have questions? Planning commissioners? Concerns?
I guess I do. If I could talk to the lady that was just up here.
Could the applicant please come back to the mic?
Have you been doing nails up there prior to this?
No, sir.
Okay, I just wondered if the customers have been a nuisance to the neighbors?
No, sir.
Okay,
It's just the family that lives there.
okay.
And if we have friends over, other than that, no. Because I know how they feel. I wouldn't do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any discussion?
I would like to hear from the members. Personally, I can't see how 8 people, and I respect everybody that lives there, how 8 people could disturb somebody inside of a building doing nails, 8 people a week. And, I do respect the people, and I realize their security and all, but she's not even going to put a sign up. And unless I hear anything else, I'd like to hear from you guys.
Anyone else?
I guess the only thing I'll chime in with is the covenants are a private matter, but the letter does say, as of right now, it's not prohibited. If they don't want businesses up there, obviously at their meeting, they could vote to not allow businesses in the subdivision. But it's a private matter between the homeowners. The county's not a party to the covenants. So for us, we just need to weigh how it affects the county and whether it's a fit or not.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we've already closed the public hearing. Thank you. Any other discussion? No?
I would just echo what Commissioner Oates said. I think ultimately I have a lot of respect for what the interests are and what the wishes are of the folks that live up there. I think from our perspective, I look at it in terms of, it's something that's allowed with a conditional use permit. If the conditions are appropriate for the use and it'll mitigate those impacts. I'm not sure that from a county perspective, that we really, need to look beyond that, or that we should. I do think that based on the conditions that have been put together, that, this would be a fairly innocuous use as far as a home-based business goes. I mean, 8 folks a week is not much. That being said, I do struggle with it because I hear what folks are saying. But I think just from a straight land use perspective, I think the conditions that are associated with this make it very difficult to not support it.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Anyone else?
If there is no other discussion, I would have to recommend approval of conditional use permit number 02-18.
Second. We could have a vote. We have a motion to approve and a second. I'll start with Mr. Unger.
Unger, yes.
Marston, yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
Manuel, yes.
Klein, yes.
Oates, yes.
Molden, yes.
Wilmot, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Moan, yes.
And chair votes yes. The motion is approved, and it goes to the Board of Supervisors for the April 25th, 2018 meeting. Thank you, everyone, for speaking. The next item on our agenda is also a public hearing item, conditional use permit number 03-18 for the Trumpet Vine Farm LLC, submitted for establishment of a special event facility in the RA Rural Area Zoning District. The property is located at 266 Vaucluse Road, Stevens City, Virginia, and are identified with property identification number 85-A-6C in the Back Creek Magisterial District. Mr. Klein.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I am here this evening with a
Well, hold just a sec.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, this is an application for consideration of a special event facility at 266 Vaucluse Road in Stevens City. Again, this is in the Bat Creek Magisterial District, and it's identified with parcel identification number 85A-6C. The property is presently zoned RA rural areas, as are the surrounding properties. The current land use is residential, consisting of a single-family detached dwelling unit, and the applicant proposes proposed use as a special event facility for weddings and other similar type events. Again, this is an overview of the site, which is highlighted in yellow and black. It is northwest of Valley Pike off of Vaucluse Road, and again, it's 68 acres. This applicant, Trumpet Vine Farms, has been operating a special event facility for weddings and other similar events since 2012, and they've been doing so under the county's festival permit process. Each year, the applicant has applied for a festival permit from the Board of Supervisors and has been granted the ability to conduct special events for the calendar year. As you all will recall, we did change the ordinance last year to require a conditional use permit for special events, and that's why this applicant has come forward to come into compliance with the new regulations. This application proposes to continue to use their existing open outdoor pavilion with retractable sides and the use of an existing storage building. The applicant also allows guests holding special events on his property to bring in temporary tents to accommodate larger groups of people. He also allows guests to bring in temporary restroom facilities, which are brought in each weekend for each event and removed immediately after the event. He uses outside catering. There's no food preparation on site, and the applicant has already provided a gravel parking service for guests. He is proposing that his special events may accommodate up to 450 persons. Here's an overview of the applicant's site. Again, the entrance is from Vaucluse Road. He has a private driveway, which he's the sole user, and then it splits off to a driveway specific to the special event venue, which is to the right of his existing home. That space for the events includes the outdoor pavilion, other outside space, and the event parking. Again, the applicant is surrounded by other agricultural and residential uses, but the property is quite secluded on Vaucluse Road. This proposed conditional use is consistent with the goals and strategies of the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, which supports opportunities for agritourism and agribusiness on rural property. As you all will recall, the Board of Supervisors approved special event facilities as a conditional use in the RA zoning district back in May of 2017, and the applicant has addressed all review agency comments, including site access, compliance with building and fire safety code, and the proposed use is generally consistent with the county's policies and regulations. Should the Planning Commission find this use to be appropriate, staff would recommend the following conditions: that all review agency comments be complied with at all times, that the applicant refine the sketch plan that is included with their application and be submitted and approved by Frederick County prior to the establishment of the use, that a commercial entrance, including the recordation of a site distance easement, be permitted and completed within 1 year of the approval of the CUP, that events shall start no earlier than 10 a.m. and all events and related activities shall conclude by midnight, that events may accommodate up to and not to exceed 450 persons, that one monument-style sign with a maximum sign area not to exceed 50 square feet and not to exceed 10 feet in height is permitted, and that any expansion or modification of this use will require the approval of a new conditional use permit. Staff is seeking a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Board of Supervisors on this conditional use permit following the conclusion of the public hearing this evening. DeBarge Spears, who's the owner and occupant of Trumpet Vine Farms, is here to answer any questions you may have, as is staff. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Anyone have questions for Mr. Klein before he sits down? Mr. Oates?
Mr. Klein, the permit that came in end of last summer through the fall, there were required a site plan, not a illustrative, and it had to comply with, I believe, B2 standards. I guess why are we changing the conditions for this? Should we be consistent? And then the other thing is there was note from the health department requiring a drain field to accommodate all the guests be installed as well.
Sure. To speak to your first comment, we did not require it to be in conformance with B2 standards. We did require that applicant comply with providing a site plan given the extent of the work that they were doing. They were erecting, I believe it was a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot building. They also, given the size of their use, were required to get building permits. They had to do a new septic and drain field, and they had some fire code items that they need to resolve. The standard that's included in the supplemental use regulations for special events only requires an illustrative sketch plan. And given that this applicant is already an existing special event facility operator and uses temporary facilities in the form of a tent and an open outdoor pavilion, we're allowing them to comply with the supplemental use standards and not prescribing an additional standard like we did with the other conditional use permit application. As far as the drain field comment, in the applicant's description, they do use temporary restroom facilities, and they anticipate continuing to use temporary restroom facilities for the immediate future. Under the supplemental use standards that are included in the zoning ordinance for special event facilities, applicants, operators can use temporary restroom facilities pending that they're screened from view from adjacent properties and roadways, which this applicant would be able to satisfy given the orientation of their property. I'll let the applicant speak to his future plans in regards to a permanent restroom, but he does understand that he would need to comply with the health department standards as it pertains to a permanent restroom setup.
So the health department's fine with temporary restrooms for now?
They are under the current zoning ordinance. The comments that they're making, some of the applications for special event centers have requested permanent restrooms, so that's why they make that comment.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Unger?
Just a comment on the restrooms. Because I've been there for an event, just so everybody knows, the restrooms are probably, what he puts in there are usually nicer than what most of us have in our house. It's very, very nice. And I'm not exaggerating. And what I didn't understand reading some of the regulations he's got to go by, I live in that area, so I go across Vaucluse once in a while. It's a dirt road. It's very, very dusty. 30 mile an hour is about as good as you do there if you go that fast. Why are you having him put a paved entrance in to a dirt road? And what's going to happen, the gravel's going to run back on the paved part, and you're still not going to get stopped or pulled out or whatever it is. That makes no sense at all to me.
That is a VDOT standard, and when the standard is that the applicant apply for a commercial entrance permit, again, when he applies for that and VDOT reviews in detail the site conditions and the plans, they may make additional comments and they may require a less of a standard. As I understand it from VDOT, the current width that the applicant has is sufficient. It is the paving standard that they have requested. Again, I'll let the applicant speak to the plans he's been working through with VDOT to address that comment.
In my opinion, VDOT's made a mistake there. Why would you put a paved, unless you want to, put a paved entrance going back to a dirt road out on VDOT?
Unfortunately, I can't agree or disagree with VDOT standards. What we can do is continue to work with the applicant, and the applicant work through VDOT to address their concerns, and as long as VDOT will accept whatever standard they want to apply, and the applicant agrees, we will accept that standard.
They ought to make every farmer down there do that if they're going to make somebody like that do it. That's my opinion.
I guess if every farmer has 450 trips at one time, they probably would.
We'll go along with that.
Thank you, Mr. Unger. Any other questions? Mr. Moan?
Just have one. With regard to the commercial entrance condition, at least the way it's written in our packet, condition 3, it states that the commercial entrance should be permitted and complete within 1 year of approval. Is it a shall kind of situation? Are we expecting that, or is it a should?
Shall.
Yeah. All right. Might want to update that. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, the applicant would like to come before us.
Hi, my name's DeMarchi Spears. I'm the owner. I've been doing it since 2012, and I'd be glad to answer any kind of questions or concerns.
Any questions for Mr. Spears? Seeing none? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing at this time to anyone who would like to speak this matter. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing.
If there is nothing else, I would like to recommend approval of conditional use permit 03-18 for Trump Vending.
Second.
I have a motion to approve, and I have a second. I'll start with Mr. Moan.
Moan, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Wilmot, yes.
Molden, yes.
Oates, yes.
Klein, yes.
Manuel, yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
Marston, yes.
Andre, yes.
And the chair votes yes. This CUP is approved, and it goes to the Board of Supervisors for their April 11th, 2018 meeting. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is an information discussion item only. It's Master Development Plan 02-18 for Regents Crest subdivision submitted by Painter Lewis PLC on behalf of Jennings Investments. This application seeks to develop 9.9 plus or minus acres of land zoned RP for residential performance in the district and B2 General Business District for townhomes and single-family small lots attached. The subject properties are located generally south of Trafalgar Square on the south side of Route 522 in the Stonewall Matchell District and are identified by property identification numbers 53-7-1 through 53-7-66 and 53-7-66A. Please note, this item is just for informational purposes only. Mr. Klein.
Yes, good evening again. This is a proposal to develop approximately 8.8 acres of property zoned RP and 1.02 acres of B2 General Business District, totaling 9.9 acres, into 95 townhome units and 4 single-family small lot attached units. The subject properties were not part of a rezoning or other legislative application. However, a prior master development plan, whoops, thank you. Apologize. The subject properties, again, were not part of a rezoning or other legislative application. However, a prior master development plan was reviewed and approved in 2004. The properties are generally located south of Route 522 in the Sunnyside area of Frederick County, south of Trafalgar Square with Sage Circle. Here's an overview of the subject properties. They are highlighted in yellow and black. The property is split zoned RP and B2. And they're immediately adjacent to other RP zone property, which consists of Westminster, Canterbury, and other single-family detached homes. The applicant proposes 95 townhomes with 4 single-family small lot units. Access to the site will be provided via Trafalgar Square, and they are providing a network of internal streets, including Sage Circle, Rain Way, and Lance Way for the circulation throughout the development. Sidewalks will be provided on either side of internal streets for pedestrian connectivity within the development. And they are providing a 5-foot multi-use trail around the perimeter of the property for recreation. They will also be providing an outdoor pavilion and playground to fulfill the rec unit requirements for this development. Here's an overview of the subject site from the master development plan. Again, Trafalgar Square is located here. You have internal circulation via Sage Circle, which is a one-way street which loops the development and heads back out towards 522. The multi-use trail is around the perimeter of the property on all sides, circulating here. And the applicant proposes an outdoor pavilion and a playground to fulfill the rec unit requirements for the site. The 4 single-family attached units are located here in the northwest corner of the property. This master development plan for Regents Crest appears to be consistent with the requirements of Article 8 master development plans of the Frederick County Zoning Ordinance, and this master development plan is in a form that is administratively approvable. This master development plan is presented this evening for information and discussion by the Planning Commission, and no action by the Planning Commission is required. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. John Lewis, representing the applicant, is here this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Oates?
Yeah, I've got a question. What was approved before and what you show up on the screen? It looked like there was a large buffer between this and the neighbors to the east. And now we're putting a whole line of townhouses right up against that line.
As you all will recall, in the fall, we changed the zoning district buffer standard from between townhomes and single-family homes, and that's reduced the buffer distance by effectively half. And the applicant's new plan takes advantage of that zoning district buffer change, and instead of single-family attached units, is providing townhome units. And I'll let Mr. Lewis speak more to their intent with these changes.
That's all right. That goes to show unintended consequences. We just did that to the neighbors.
Tend
So
to agree.
I would recommend from now on, when people come in and ask for these buffer restrictions and setbacks, we need to think all the way through what's going to happen when we do that. Here's a prime example.
Thank you. Mr. Honor?
Just curious, Tyler, where's the bus going to pull off at to where kids can catch a bus?
I'll have to let Mr. Lewis speak to that.
Any other members? Seeing none? Mr. Lewis?
Good evening. John Lewis with Painter Lewis representing the project. To answer your question, these are private streets, so the bus will turn around at the cul-de-sac and will not enter into the,
But there's room for it to do that in the cul-de-sac?
I'm sorry?
There's room for him to make his turn in the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Have you spoken to anyone with Transportation Division of the school system for that confirmation?
Yes, they left there's a comment in your package to that effect, I believe.
Right, I just didn't get to that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the schools.
Okay.
If you would, could you describe the buffer to the neighbors to the east and what's being done for stormwater management to those neighbors?
The stormwater management's already been in place. This thing was built the infrastructure was built in 2006, I think. All the storm, sewer, stormwater detention was all taken care of at that time. We were actually showing that we're not going to have as much impervious areas because the original plan in '06 was for single-family houses. I don't remember the number, but if you do the calculations, the townhomes actually generate less impervious area. So there's a comment in your package again from Public Works to that effect, and we're demonstrating that we're handling the stormwater. As far as the buffer's concerned, actually the buffers are all around it. They're not only on the east side, but they're on the,
I understand, but you have neighbors here tonight that would probably like to hear what those are.
the buffers.
Buffers, it's going to be against them.
It's a full screen buffer, just as the ordinance calls for. It's 15 inactive and 10 active. There'll be an opaque element and the typical planting, which is 3 plants per 10 linear feet, as it's always been.
Will your opaque element be a fence or a berm?
Well, actually, we're going to ask for no opaque element along the east because there's about a 30-foot drop there. So I'm not sure a fence is going to do anything, but the remainder is going to be a fence.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Lewis? Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
All righty. This was just an information discussion item, so there's no other items. We'll move on to our next. Our next item on our agenda is shipping containers. This, again, is an information discussion item. It's discussion on revisions to the Frederick County zoning ordinance to restrict the use of shipping containers, i.e. prefabricated durable steel shipping containers, also known as intermodal containers, cargo containers, freight containers, or ISO containers, as accessory structures in certain districts. Mr. Klein.
Yes, I think you covered the proposal pretty well. And it is the restriction of storage containers or shipping containers as accessory storage in certain districts. The current zoning ordinance does not specifically address shipping containers. However, it only addresses where tractor trailers may be parked and stored, and there are certain requirements pertaining to that use. Shipping containers as an accessory storage have been identified as a concern by the planning department, by members of the public. Staff has drafted a revision to the zoning ordinance to restrict the use of shipping containers as accessory storage in the RP, residential performance, R4, planned unit, and R5, recreational community districts and on lots of less than 6 acres in the RA, rural areas zoning district. Further, we're proposing to allow shipping containers as storage on RA or rural area lots on properties greater than 6 acres where the containers meet the required 15-foot side and rear setback for accessory structures. Further, we're proposing to restrict the use of shipping containers as storage in business and industrial districts only except where they are contained completely within a screened outdoor storage yard and where the containers are not to be stacked. Again, this applies specifically to shipping containers as storage, not shipping containers as a use for transportation like tractor trailers. In our staff's original proposal that they took to the Development Review and Regulations Committee, we actually proposed the restriction of shipping containers in all zoning districts except where they are used as storage during construction activities and would therefore be removed prior to the issuance of occupancy. After discussion with the Development Review and Regulations Committee we have recommended further revisions to the text to only restrict the use of shipping containers as storage under certain conditions and within certain zoning districts. Staff is seeking any comments from the Planning Commission to forward to the Board of Supervisors. Again, this is an information and discussion item, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Klein?
Sure, I'll throw one out. Just, we've had some letters coming in, and just to clarify, if someone brings a shipping container on a lot less than 6 acres in the RA, if they basically put it inside a building or build a building around it, that's allowed because it's not outdoor and exposed, correct?
Defer to the zoning administrator, and his interpretation would be yes, they would be allowed if they're contained within another building.
Yeah. So that, again, there's been questions rolling in. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Thank you.
Any other? Mr. Munger?
Just a comment. I've also had some talk with people about this, and they was wondering where the 6 acres came from. And basically what we were trying to do is get away from these 5-acre tracts all over the county that have them and use shipping containers. After listening to them, 6 acres, I wouldn't care if we raised it to 10 acres. Just because it's still going to be an eyesore. If you can't hide them in 6, jump it to 10.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Any others? This will require a motion and to move it forward to the board, so I have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Rhodes, I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye. 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 Opposed? It moves on to the board for their May 9th, 2018 meeting. Next item on the agenda is self-storage facilities in the RA district. Discussion on revisions to the Frederick County zoning ordinance to allow self-storage facilities in the RA zoning district as a conditional use requiring approval for conditional use permit. Mr. Klein again.
Yes, again, good evening, and this is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance to reconsider storage facilities, self-storage in the RA rural area zoning district. Under our current zoning ordinance, storage facilities, self-service are only allowed in our B2 general business, B3 industrial transition, M1 light industrial, and M2 industrial general zoning districts.
No, I've been leased on a few.
This text amendment was previously considered by the Planning Commission in 2015. Many of you may recall. The Board of Supervisors denied this text amendment following a public hearing in November of 2015. At our February 26th Development Review and Regulations Committee meeting, staff was directed by the committee to bring this item back for reconsideration as it was drafted in 2015. The proposed 2015 text amendment included additional supplemental use regulations for self-storage facilities in the RA district. So we had there's a list of supplemental uses for storage facilities across the business and industrial districts, and then we added additional regulations that would apply to properties in the RA district. This included where the properties must be located within a designated and defined rural community center as identified in our 2035 comprehensive plan, that all developments shall conform to all B2 general business district standards regarding setbacks and screening, and where all developments should have direct access onto a paved state road. Staff is seeking any comments from the Planning Commission on the original text amendment to forward to the Board of Supervisors for further consideration, or the Planning Commission may send this item back to committee for further discussion and additional revisions, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
All righty. Questions, Mr. Oates?
Hey,
No.
sure, send it back.
I thought you signaled me there.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Any others?
I guess I have a question for the folks from the subcommittee. What precipitated the interest in directing staff or asking staff to bring this back again?
I'll be glad to answer that. That was a request by a board member.
I thought that might have been the case. Board member.
Supervisor, not the Planning Commission.
Yeah,
sorry.
Board Supervisor requesting.
Gotcha.
Any others? So if not, I'll seek a motion to send it on to the board, or do we want to send it back to committee?
I think it needs to go back to committee and get reworked before it comes forward.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor, send self-storage in the RA district back to the DRC committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No, so this will go back to the committee, DRC committee for. That is our last item on our agenda tonight, unless we have has anything they'd like to bring forward. If not, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.